morning, grade 7s. Welcome to lesson 4 of this term's work. In this lesson, we're going to continue with fractions, but today we will be talking about multiplication of fractions. Alright, so if we have a look at our notes, I have uploaded these notes, so just have a look further down on your journal page. It says here, when we multiply two fractions, all you have to do is multiply the numerators together and then multiply the denominators together. Then always simplify your answers. Please, guys, most important with common fractions, your final fractions must be in the simplest version. Even if I don't tell you to simplify, you have to do it. All right, so it says here, when you are multiplying mixed numbers, you first have to get rid of the mixed number by changing it to an improper fraction, and then you multiply. So remember, we did conversions in a previous lesson, but I will do a quick recap when we get there now. So it says, when multiplying by a whole number, you always write it as a fraction. Sorry, that's just my dog barking in the background. You always write it as a fraction where the denominator is 1. That's for any whole number. Okay, so let's get on with these examples. So first thing before we start, it says, remember, when you see the word of, it means you must multiply. So please remember that of means multiply or times. So our first example, I'm going to do it here on the page for you. We've got 1/3 of 2/3. Now remember, I said of just means you multiply. So our first step, I'm going to replace the of with a multiplication symbol. Nothing changes, the fractions stay the same, all that changes is the symbol. Now my rule is we don't have a whole number, so we don't need to worry about converting. All we're going to do now, multiply our numerators and multiply our denominators. That is all that you do when you are multiplying fractions. You just times across like that. So 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 3 is 9. Now I've got 2 and 9. Is there a number or a factor that can go into 2 and 9? No, there isn't. So that is my final answer. So there I just calculated 1/3 of 2/3. Okay, the next one, we're going to do exactly the same, is 5/6 of 1 1/5. Now here, I have my whole number. So remember I said, if I just make sure you can see the whole number, when you've got a whole number, the first thing we're going to do is convert that to an improper fraction. And I'm going to replace the word of with the multiplication in the same step. So my first fraction stays the same, 5/6, of becomes times, then 1 and 1/5. Remember, when we are converting to an improper fraction, we say whole number times denominator plus numerator. So 1 times 5 is 5, plus 1 is 6, and your denominator stays the same. Okay, now it's the same as the first one. We're going to just multiply across like that. So 5 times 6 is equal to 30. 6 times 5 is equal to 30. Now 30/30, that is not in its simplest form. We know that 30 can go into itself once and into itself once. So 30/30 is equal to 1 whole. And that's your final simplified answer. So any number over itself equals 1 whole. Right, then example C I haven't done for you, so quickly pause this video, work out the answer, and then resume when you're ready to see the working out. Okay, so hopefully you've done the working out to question C. I'm going to do it here quickly on the paper for you. This is the same as the previous question, so we have a whole number there. We need to change that to an improper fraction. So the first fraction stays the same, 2/3. Of becomes times, then whole number times denominator plus numerator. So 3 times 7 is 21, plus 4 is 20, 5/7. Okay, now we need to multiply across like that. So 2 times 25 is 50. 3 times 7 is 21. Now obviously that's an improper fraction, so it's not in its simplest form. So we need to get this back to a mixed number. And if you think back to the previous lessons, you say how many times can our denominator go into our numerator? So if you count in 21s, you've got 21, then 42, then 63. So it goes in 2 times. And because that's 42, we have 50. We have a remainder of 8 over 21. Now you ask yourself, is there a number that can go into 8 and 21? No, there's not. So that is your final answer. So you can fill that in over there on the line. Right, then we've got question D, which is 2/5 of 45. Now here we're working with a fraction and a whole number. Now if you go back here, it says when multiplying by a whole number, always write it as a fraction where the denominator is 1. So that's what I'm going to do. The first fraction stays is, of becomes a times, and 45 becomes 45 over 1. Any whole number is always over 1. Okay, now we go on as normal. Multiply the top, multiply the bottom. So 2 times 45 is 90. 5 times 1 is 5. That's not in our simplest form because it's a mixed, an improper fraction. So 5 goes into 90, 18 times with no remainder. So your answer is 18. Okay, then question E. We've got 2.5 of 20. Now we have a whole number and we have a mixed fraction or mixed number. So first thing we have to do is get rid of that whole number. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2. Of becomes a times. 20 is the same as saying 20 over 1 because it's a whole number. Next step, multiply the top, multiply the bottom. 5 times 20 is 100. 2 times 1 is 2. 100 divided by 2 is 50. So your final answer is 50. Again, the last one is not done for you, so quickly pause the video and do that one and press play when you are ready to see the answer. Okay, so here we've got our sum, 3 2/3 of 15. Once again, we need to get rid of our whole number. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11 over 3. Of becomes times, and 15 becomes 15 over 1. Now we multiply across. 11 times 15, if you can't do this in your head, it's not an issue. You just work it out on the side. So 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 1 is 1, 5 and 1. So it's 165. So we have 165 over 3. Again, 3 can go into there a certain number of times, so we're going to divide. So 3 goes into 16 5 times with the remainder of 1. 3 goes into 15 5 times as well. So our answer is 55. So just remember, whenever you're multiplying fractions, of means times. You need to always get rid of your whole number, so convert it to an improper fraction. If it's a whole number, the fraction is always over 1, and then you just multiply the numerators together, multiply the denominators together, and then you simplify. So that's the end of lesson 4 part 1. You can come back and watch part 2 in a little bit.